10 questions to ask your barrister or trial attorney when you meet him or her. So who am I? I'm David. I was arrested for a criminal offence and I was on bail for 3 years before the case against me was dropped in a Crown Court in the UK. Check out my other videos for further information. The usual disclaimer, I'm not a legal professional and the thoughts, advice and reflections herein are my own as a layperson. I recommend you get advice from a properly qualified legal professional. Okay, into the video. So welcome back. So this is a follow-on video of the questions to ask your solicitor should you be arrested or find yourself in some trouble, legal trouble. 10 questions to ask your barrister or trial attorney when you meet him or her. So I'll link the solicitor video in the description. A barrister in the UK is the equivalent of a trial attorney in the US. So much of what I will say here should, I hope, apply to the US. In summary, for the UK, if you are arrested, you will have a solicitor or a lawyer who will advise you in the police station and represent you in the court hearings, the early court hearings, especially in the lower sort of magistrates' courts. If there is a trial, the solicitor will help identify a barrister to represent you in court. In the US, they are known as trial attorneys, as I said. So for the purposes of this video, I will call them barristers. In the UK, barristers are the type you see in a gown and a wig in court. Note, if you find yourself being represented in court by a barrister, you're going away for a long time. It's a little joke there. Okay, so what questions, if any, do you ask a barrister or trial attorney, and how do you select him or her in the first place? And what makes a good and bad barrister? I'm going to also record another little video later on advice by a barrister himself. But these are my thoughts. Now, the first things first, the choice of barrister or trial attorney is crucial. It's super important. Your case, your liberty, all comes down to what happens in court in a trial in front of a judge and jury. The barrister is the person who should act as the counterweight to the Crown prosecutor, even bully the prosecutor and the prosecution witnesses like the police. But how do you make a selection? Well, the solicitor would normally advise or nominate a barrister, but it is you who engages him or her, so you should keep yourself in the loop. If you're not involved, get involved. Involve yourself in the selection of that barrister. Now, don't worry, like me, you might find yourself shell-shocked in an unfamiliar situation, unsure and lacking in confidence when making a selection for a barrister. The solicitor will have connections. After all, the legal professional is his or her business. So in my case, the solicitor represented me in a few court hearings, administrative hearings. The first time I met my nominated barrister was an hour or so before the first proper big hearing, not the trial, but this was a hearing in a Crown Court in front of a judge with a wig and a gown. So what you do, you need to do some research first. Your solicitor will tell you who they're nominated or who they're thinking of using as a barrister. Look them up online and look at their profile and the profile of their colleagues, what chambers or legal firm they are from or connected to. Then develop questions along these lines and ask them when you meet. You want to test them, test the knowledge. Firstly, ask, what is your area of expertise? What experience do you have of the type of case that you're being presented with? You know, my case, if I'm the defendant. Do you have your experience in fraud or sexual assault or harassment, divorce, law, or whatever it is? Because each barrister has a certain set of experience. Now, in my case, I did my research and my barrister didn't have experience directly related to my crime, my e-crime in the internet. But he was very experienced at taking on the police and interrogating the police, and he was a bright guy who brought a lot of other experience. So I thought he might relish the challenge, so I cut him some slack on that. Secondly, ask the barrister what they think are the weaknesses of your case. And similarly, what are the strengths of your case? So try and get an idea of how they gauge the case, the weaknesses and the strengths, and you'll get an idea of whether they've grasped the important points. Then test them on their grasp of detail. Have they read the documentation that you have already prepared and passed to your solicitor? Now, see my other videos on, I list a video on the 26 documents that you should prepare for your solicitor and barrister. Now, you might have already submitted those to the barrister and the solicitor. Have they read them? Have they picked up the detail? Have they analysed them? Now, when I did that with my solicitor, I had already prepared a dozen or so documents. It was clear from what he was saying that he had read them and understood them, and he was quoting details back to me. So that was a good sign. Okay, next, quote them a case, perhaps refer to a case, perhaps in the public eye, and see how it compares, or ask them how it compares to your case. This will show whether they can think on their feet, whether they're familiar with the other case that might be similar to yours, and how it might compare or contrast to it or not. And again, you might get an idea of how good they are at thinking on their feet. Next, ask why do they want the case? What is their motivation for taking the case? And again, you'll get an idea of why they want it. There might be some professional appeal for taking this kind of case or helping. If it's just another case on a conveyor belt, well, is there somebody else out there who really wants this case because it's good for them, for their own professional development? Next question. Who is their backup? If they can't appear in court themselves, who would it be from their chambers or from their legal firm that would turn up to represent you in court? And what does their team look like? What kind of research do they do and would they do on your case? Who helps the barrister compiling the case? In my instance, there was a mention hearing, which is just an administrative hearing when the case was dropped finally. And my barrister couldn't attend the court, so he sent a junior colleague. And fortunately, when that junior colleague turned up, he also knew about my case. He knew the detail, and that was encouraging. So do a bit of background, ask them about the rest of the team. Next, what chambers or legal firm are they from? Again, look online and look at their profile and other people's profile. Do they have, in fact, an experienced colleague who can advise them, who might even be better placed to take your case? And if so, why aren't they giving this case to their colleague? Why isn't the other colleague who has more experience taking the case? Next, what are the options in your case? What are the legal options? If he or she knows their law, then they should have an opinion on how they think the case will go. Has there been an abusive process by the police? Could the police be challenged in some way for not following the law or some proper legal procedure? Ask them this. They've thought about your case. Is there something they can already see that could be challenged and used to bring about an end of the court proceedings against you? And finally, ask them what you should do now, you as the defendant. What do they need from you? They should need something, surely. If they say, don't worry, we've got it all in hand, that would make me a bit nervous. So see my other video on the 26 documents that you should prepare as the defendant. Have you prepared enough already? Has the barrister seen and read them? What other documents, what other information should you compile? That is also useful to ask the barrister, because again, it's testing them. Ideally they should have an idea of what they want from you. If they've read all these documents from you or on you, or maybe just a short summary, they must have questions for you to answer and evidence that they think you could compile for them. And finally, this isn't really a question. Are they a good match for you, a personality match? Does their temperament match yours, fit your situation? Would they be able to empathize with your situation, your side of the story? See how committed they are maybe to your case, because it might just be another case for them, but it might be the only case that you will experience in your life, and it could be a life-defining episode, so it has to mean something. Even on a professional level to them, they find this an intriguing case and they want to take it on and they want to get a result. So those are the 10 questions you can ask your barrister, not barista, or your trial attorney. Test them. See what they already know about your case. You are interviewing them, they are not interviewing you. I hope you found that useful. So you can add your own comment in the comments, other questions that could be asked, but I've tried to keep them short and sharp down to 10. And you can, of course, ask variations on those questions, but I think that covers them all. Thank you for tuning in. Please do like and subscribe and check out the other videos. If you want to support me, that would be a great help and much appreciated. You can buy me a coffee, follow the link in the description, or you can even check out the books, Mad as Hell Parts 1 and 2. Part 1 is the 899 days on bail before I was charged, and then Part 2 is the 7 months of the trial preparation before the case against me was dropped. The ebook and paperback is available on Amazon. Search for Mad as Hell by David M. Anderson, and you could probably go into a bookshop and they could order it from their systems as well. And of course, if you or a loved one are experiencing legal troubles yourself, I hope you found this channel and video useful, and the very best of luck. Thanks.